Find the Chaos Emeralds. Tear down the walls between dimensions. Destroy the Titans. You are the key.
I'm here, reaching far across these new frontiers. With my life, I fight this fear. In my hands, I hold the ones I love. Walk forward through the cold tide. Always to new horizons.
And how's it going, everybody? This is DarkAssassinKIX, and welcome to the official review of Sonic Frontiers. It came out a little under a month ago on November 8th, available on Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Series X and X, PS4, PS5, and Windows. Spoiler warnings for the story and gameplay, but mainly the story. So if you don't want to get spoiled by anything I do say that's story related, I'm sorry. Even though I'm super happy you clicked on this video, you probably might want to click off. Do subscribe though, if you so you can check out some more content, or come back to rewatch this review whenever you are ready. Timestamps will be in the description down below for all parts. We're gonna be going really in depth into this game, and without further ado, let's get right into things. Oh my gosh, man, Sonic Frontiers, I mean, I think a lot of people, or at least for me, I can at least say for myself, I had like very little to zero expectations for this game. I didn't really think much of this game. I was very close to dropping this franchise. For those that are unaware, I do have this mini series called the Where Am I At Now series, where I just talk about how I got into the franchise, the games that I played, and where am I at now currently with them. I've done one for Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, and Sonic, and somehow Sonic is like the one that I did not drop, but I am like so close to like, or I was very close to just dropping, and this game was more or less like the make it or break it. As far as like for video games at least, because multimedia at least, they were doing really good. I mean, we got the highly anticipated up and coming series on Netflix known as Sonic Prime. We had the Sonic movie, the first and the second, which I enjoyed so much, and I am super excited to see the third Sonic movie. Multimedia wise, I was not worried for Sonic. It was just the video games, which is where I started off with mostly, or a lot of people. Anybody that's been with the Sonic franchise for a while has realized that the franchise is always on a damn roller coaster. They will do so good for a couple of games, then they go down and up and down. I already know a lot of people know about the Dark Age of Sonic. I was unfortunately not a part of it at the time when that was going on, when they had like, I think it was like Shadow the Hedgehog going onwards, especially with 06, and it wasn't until when Sonic Unleashed brought them out. For here, it's not like we were, or at least nowadays, it's not like we were in a dark age, but things just weren't looking good. Lost World was so-so, the Boom franchise, we're never going back to that ever again, and it was also just like a out of nowhere type shit, and at the very least, from what I hear, they at least ended it off decently-ish good with both the cartoon and Fire and Ice on the 3DS, but fucking Forces was just, I thought that was an absolute shit game. I thought it did pretty bad, and it's super embarrassing of how bad it did compared to Mania when it got released alongside that game, which wasn't created from Sega. It was made from Christian Whiteheads and other couple fans, and that game did absolutely fantastic. And because of that, they just started marketing more of Sonic Mania and just classic Sonic in general, and Sonic Forces was just left in the dust. You have that combined with the fact that we also had 2 remastered games, one being Colors Ultimate and then Sonic Origins, which encompass the 4 classic Sonic games, Sonic 1, 2, 3, Knuckles, and CD, also not doing great as well, especially on Colors Ultimate. So it's like, why would I have any expectations for Frontiers? Like, for what reason would I think that this game would be good, especially when the 30th anniversary I thought was boring as shit, really. I mean, nothing actually fucking came out, or at least anything good came out, literally. So, but then again, it's pretty good that they pushed this game back though, but at the same time, it's like, we knew nothing. Why would anybody give this game a bit of a chance, or trust it at the very least? Then we finally started getting info very slowly, which, my god, I think next time they should at least just not say anything until they actually got things to just show off, because we had a trailer, then we waited like a good bit of months, or we had rumors of speculation of the name, then we waited months, then we got a very short trailer, then we had to wait a couple months, and then only a little, I think like mid this year, that things started picking up when we started seeing more gameplay. Which, by the way, the first 2 bits of gameplay that IGN was showing off was absolutely horrendous. They gotta do a better job with that. But over time, as the coverage of the game been going on and people were actually able to play the demos at somewhere in Europe and in Hawaii, things were starting to look a bit brighter for this game. And then, Lord and behold, the game released. I'm gonna say this right now, I really enjoyed Sonic Frontiers. I truly think it's worth it for the $60. I truly do think so. Although at the same time nowadays it may be of a stretch, but I think over time that may change, considering that I actually just released a video where we got a roadmap of the many contents we're going to be getting throughout 2023. So there's also that. But regardless, if you were to ask me, like I was to go back in time, would I still pre-order this game, the $60, or actually 70 because I got the digital deluxe? Yes, I would. I enjoy this game a lot. This is honestly one of my favorite Sonic games I've ever played. There are definitely like tons of problems, which I am definitely going to be talking about, but this is a game that I really enjoy. I mean, just an open world / open zone combat-ish fighting Sonic game, like that's like something I've always wanted to play. I've always wanted a type of Sonic game like that, and it actually coming out the way that it did, I am pretty impressed, and I am very curious to see if they continue going forward with this type of formula in the future. So that being said, let's go on to the story, shall we? So as far as the story, there are 2 things or one thing you really got to do. There are prologues. So like Sonic Forces, there are 2 prologues going on for this game. The first one that comes first is the comics. It talks about how Sonic and Tails catch up with Amy. They're going to Starfall Islands because the Chaos Emeralds are just going there, as well as Eggman is already over there about to retrieve the ancient secrets. And then we have the second prologue, which is actually an animation on YouTube, focusing more on Knuckles, just his background and such, and how he is just exploring more of Angel Island, and I believe it's Angel Island. Sorry if I'm mistaken that. He finds like a special gear, which we'll talk about that gear later on, gets to the portal. The beastie ever-loving shits out of these enemies, but then he gets captured by Sage and this mini boss known as Azura, and is captured in the cage while also monologuing. I thought it was a pretty cool animated short that they did. I highly recommend everybody check out both the comics, but especially the animation. Aside from the prologue, let's actually get to the game itself. So, Eggman is at Starfall Islands and uploads his AI known as Sage to the portal. Guardian starts showing up, and then a malfunction happens, which causes Sage to activate a protective protocol and brings Eggman to cyberspace. Later on though, we see Sonic and company flying to the Starfall Islands, but we see a weird portal just pops up out of nowhere and sucks them all in. So Sonic, Tails, and Amy is now in the portal known as cyberspace. However, Sonic is the only one to make it out of cyberspace, and as he gets out, he randomly hears a strange voice talking about he is the key and giving him instructions to find the Chaos Emeralds as well as taking down various Titans. So Sonic explores the first island known as Kronos Island, finds Amy prison. Now, to interact with Amy and with any characters in the game, you need to get these specific medals. Now, these medals obviously don't have anything to do with the story. They just have it because they want you to just go and explore the world. Now, you obviously see the icons on your map to see where these medals are, but there are also these special, like, mysterious blue whitish flags. You do a Cyclops around that in a circle, and sometimes they'll drop like 9 to 11 of those, so that's pretty cool. You get enough of them and then you interact with the characters. So you do that and then you interact with Amy. The energy that was holding Amy in prison then goes to Sonic, which is a good thing but also a bad thing. Good thing that it's giving Sonic insight about the island and so on. Bad thing is that it's corrupting Sonic, and over time, as we see when he releases them for the prison and doing more things with this corrupted energy, it really starts to take a toll on Sonic, and we really see that in game. We then see our first Titan known as Giganto, and we also meet the AI known as Sage. It looks like Sage is actually able to control these Titans, but only to a certain extent. Sonic chats a little bit with Sage, then the Titan just beats the fucking shit out of Sonic. Sonic wakes up from his deep slumber and he realized that he needs to get the Chaos Emeralds. Now, in order to get the Chaos Emeralds, you need to fight or do either two things. Either you can fight the mini bosses like Azura or some of the other ones that will be shown on the map, or you do a Cyclope and there will be a chance, like whenever you do a Cyclope in a circle, there will be a chance where a gear will just pop up out of the ground. Now you use these gears and then you go to a portal. Sometimes it may require 1 or 2 to unlock cyberspace. Once you then go into cyberspace, which are those boost like type of areas, you had to complete these set of challenges. Now these challenges are either beating the stage, beating it with an S rank, with a certain amount of rings, and all red rings. You can get up to 5 Emerald Vault Keys, but you can get minimum 1. Once you get enough Vault Keys, it will then unlock the Chaos Emerald for that specific vault, which you can then retrieve. It's very important that I say that not every Chaos Emerald is at the vault keys. Is at the vault. There are 2, I believe, in Island 1, 2, and 5, where you are going to have to get them via minigames, which I think is pretty stupid, which we'll get to very soon. But before we get to that, we interact with these creatures known as Coco. Now, we can't understand them, but it looks like Amy, Tails, and Knuckles, but in this case for the island, Amy can understand them because they're in cyberspace or whatever, I guess. I don't know. As we help them out with their random tasks, we get the Chaos Emeralds. For example, one of them, the mother is trying to find their son. The mother Coco is trying to find their son Coco, and we just round up a couple Cocos to her, and then we get the Chaos Emerald. I don't like that we have to get these Chaos Emeralds via mini game, because it feels like the characters have the emeralds and they're like, hey, I know we're trying to help you, but do these missions and then we'll give you the actual emerald. Like if we're being completely honest, all of the emeralds should be in a vault in some case or fashion. But we have 2 that's in a mini game. Like, that's stupid. That's honestly very stupid to me. Anyway, we help these Cocos out with their tasks. Each time that we help them, by the way, we do see a little bit of a vision of stuff that has been going on. We do see a little bit of like destruction and stuff, and we also, when you look at the Cocos, they do look a little bit like Chaos, if y'all remember that, but we learn more about this stuff later on in the game as we talk about it. Anyway, we get all the Chaos Emeralds, or at least 6 of the 7, open our final pathway to fight Giganto over the waterfall, and we see that the last Chaos Emerald is literally on top of his head. That's very important because it will tell us why later on it's on its head. We get the Chaos Emerald, transform into Supersonic, and we beat the ever-living shit out of Giganto in the most badass way possible. Beat Giganto, and we see a flash, like another flash, like how we got a flash with the Cocos. We get another flash after we beat or destroy one of the Titans, but it's only for like a split second or 2, and then we just head off to the next island. And that's basically how one island goes, and you just do the exact same thing for Island 2 and 3. and 5, but we'll get to 5 later on. But you do the exact same thing for Island 2, which will be with Knuckles, and Island 3 with Tails. So that being said, I'm not going to get too specific with like the Coco task. If you do want to check it out, I'll put links to the cutscenes to those in the description down below. By the time we get to the 4th island, we had to now take down 6 towers, which would then finally tear down the walls between the 2 dimensions, according to what this random voice is telling us. And by this point, when we're looking at the cutscenes, Sonic is very weak. Like at this point, the corruption energy is really getting to him. He can barely stand on both his feet. It's really tough to see. Now, Island 4 is actually not like Islands 1, 2, and 3. It's more of an expedition island. We see what went on with the ancients and the civilization, what's been going on. So, from the 6 towers, we see that they used to power the emeralds, to power these chaos engines on their ships to escape from a disaster that destroyed the worlds. So, basically, the emeralds are from Earth. They're from a different planet. The emeralds get drawn to the power of the master emeralds as they get closer to Earth, so they then had to settle on Earth. They decided to use cyberspace. They wanted to live like a peaceful life, but they wanted to use the power of cyberspace to save like their memories and stuff, so that the civilization is not lost forever. Especially since whatever phenomenon destroyed their world has followed them to Earth. The Titans, we then see they're creating these Titans, and they are powered by the emeralds. So those emeralds that are on top of them, that makes sense now, because they are powered literally by the emeralds, which also explains why they're so strong to where Sonic has to go into Super Sonic to take them out. However, even the Titans powered with the power of the Chaos Emeralds, they're not even strong enough to take down whatever phenomenon this is that the dangers came to Earth. So the commanding Titan, known as Supreme, decides to seal it into his Titan and himself, and then into cyberspace. Once you finish this deed, Sonic is then stuck into cyberspace because he took on way too much corruption energy by unlocking all 6 towers. However, the deed is done, and the danger is now escape from cyberspace. With the power of friendship, somehow, Sonic is now free from cyberspace from the corruption energy, and then creates a bit of an alliance with Sonic, Sage, and Sonic creates an alliance with Sage and Eggman, and to go gather the last 7 Chaos Emeralds over in the final island. Sonic gets all 7 emeralds, take down the final Titan, which drives the phenomenon danger out of this Titan known as Supreme out into space to regain its true form. Sage then takes control of the final Titan. They both head off into space. They take out the phenomenon known as the End, and Sage does an intense sacrifice to make sure that it doesn't endanger Earth. At the end, we then see Super Sonic flying to his friends, showing off the victory, but then soon afterwards, we see one of the saddest scenes in recent Sonic franchise. Eggman at a cliff, reaching to the sky, and then looking depressed and looks down and sighing when Sage is gone. Sage sacrificed herself, and then we see Eggman mourning her death. This was one of the saddest scenes ever. I truly almost teared up when I saw this scene. It was very, very powerful, and then it just went straight to the credits. Oh my gosh, that was really something right there. The game does pull off a marvel at the end though. There's 2 actual end credit scenes. We see a little bit of a happy humor. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy just talking about like their future plans and what they can be doing in the future, and then they just set off in the sunset. And then the second cutscene, Sage is actually alive, and we assume it's because of the power of cyberspace, because we now know that cyberspace stores memories and such, so that's probably how she is still alive, because Eggman is now accessing the portals in cyberspace. But yeah, that's the story. And one other thing before I talk about the story more, like my pros and cons about it, there was a thing called Eggman memos or logs. If you go to the Big the Cat side fishing area, you can actually trade in up to and get up to 24 Eggman memos or logs, and it talks about the ancient, Sage, cyberspace, and extra interesting things to listen to. That will help answer some of your questions that you may have throughout the game. Overall, this was a pretty interesting story. When you're playing this game and you're looking more into the story, you realize that this game is focusing on two things. One is just putting out, is just trying to work out some lore stuff between like the emeralds and between the emeralds. Hold up. Overall, this was a very interesting story. This story focuses a lot on lore, as well as just trying to bring continuity towards all the previous Sonic games into one. Now, I do have some good and bad things I do want to point out. It makes no sense how Sonic is able to come back from cyber corruption. At least to me, it doesn't. You're trying to tell me that he got full-on corrupted, and with the power of friendship and his friends just say just random words like, Sonic, you gotta come back, and then he just comes back and then they just go back into cyberspace. That's ridiculous. I thought that was like one of the stupidest things they could have done. So him coming back from cyberspace makes no sense. Unless I missed something that it points out that with the power of friendship or whatever, that it can bring somebody back from cyberspace. I think that's really dumb. Truthfully. Earlier I made a point about how Sage put Eggman into Protective Protocol and brought him into cyberspace to protect them from this phenomenon known as the End. Why didn't Eggman? It felt like Eggman didn't know about this, because as I was rewatching cutscenes for certain things, it felt like by the time we were in his time in cyberspace and when he got out of cyberspace in Island 4, it seemed like he never knew about this problem known as the End, but Sage did. Why didn't she communicate this to Eggman? Because he's like left out of the blue, that one thing, and I felt like that would have made like a huge difference when it came to him trying to think about how to get out and stuff. And let's say that didn't change and he just wants to get out regardless. Him not knowing just still makes no sense though. Especially when this is like one of his best AIs he has ever created. As far as cutscenes are concerned, I mean, when they're good, they're like super good. However, there are like multiple times, like in the side stories, the cutscenes they make them look like stiff mascot models, and I thought that was pretty annoying to look at all the time. But then again, it's like a common thing I see in a lot of like JRPG open world games like that, to where there's like so much dialogues that it's like, do we really want to like animate all of these damn cutscenes for this amount of dialogues for like a couple seconds? So I guess there is that, but I kind of wish they'd maybe do a tad bit better or something, or maybe like a different presentation for them, kind of like how Sword Art Online does theirs usually, where they do a bit of like a text box. I wouldn't mind them doing that for certain moments in the game, but that's just me though. I mean, it can vary from person to person, I guess. I enjoy the connections the game did to past games, and along with how they're trying to like build an actual like lore or reestablish it again, especially with the Chaos Emeralds. However, and I'm not one that, I had to actually just look this up because I'm not someone that really studies lore like that, even though, like, for example, I love the hell out of Assassin's Creed. I'm not really the greatest when it comes to remembering certain things. So here's like a perfect example. The Emeralds, obviously, as you remember, or as you see in this game, they're from outer space, from this other world, from where the ancients used to live at. But the Master Emerald is over here on Earth. Now, this wouldn't bother a lot of people if Sonic Unleashed was never a thing, because if you remember from the Gaia manuscripts, the Emeralds were there since pretty much the creation of Earth, if I remember so correctly. So you got like these small things where it's like, okay, this doesn't make sense because of this and this and that. So it's like a double-edged sword on what they did for this game. I like it, but at the same time, there are gonna be like those question mark things where it's like, oh man, we forgot about that. So it is what it is with that though, but it does it's probably gonna leave some head-scratching moments going forward for like certain things with plot. So they're probably going to be very smart when it comes to like how they're going to be going for like future like lore stuff in like future games, especially since they're going to be continuing the story next year. Voice acting, they did very good. I liked how really all these characters sounded, especially the side characters. I thought they did a very good job with Amy especially, and with Knuckles. This is one of the best character-driven story games for Sonic I've seen probably ever. Like, they did so great when it came to the development of pretty much all but Sonic, really. Every character has their moments, and it's pretty amazing to honestly watch. And it's so great when you just interact with these characters, whether it's the side stories or the actual main story, and you just listening to them talking about their flaws, and then as the time goes on in that island and at the end of the game, they talk about what they're gonna do to like correct themselves and to just better themselves for future in the future of the franchise. With Amy is with just spreading the power of love after helping those Cocos throughout the world. Even though she is like a hardcore lover for Sonic, she wants to just push forward and help spread that power of love, even though it's going to drive her and Sonic or drift them both apart from each other for that time being. For Knuckles is battle, and it has also, and Knuckles, this game also goes great hand in hand with that animation that we saw earlier for the prologue, him battling himself on the amount of responsibilities that he has with guarding the Master Emerald and being the last of his kind, that he needs to now just like maybe just like take it easy a bit, relax, and just go and explore the world more, and just not have all this burden on him and that he can like trust others, that he doesn't have to do everything by himself. With Tails is to be more than Sonic's shadow, to be strong as well, and just not to rely on Sonic 24/7. It's so amazing. Honestly, I think without question, Amy, to me, Amy, I think got the best of the three, got the best of everything. Next to Amy is Knuckles. Amy and Knuckles, between the two, had some amazing character time between them and Sonic, and I am very curious and interested to see how things go in the future with all these characters. We also got Sage and Eggman, Sage being the new one, and she's not like a total bad character. She's just like an AI that has like little to no like emotions at all, but she learns these emotions over time after the interactions with Sonic, how he interacts with his friend, and how Eggman treats him. He treats him like her like an actual daughter, and with genuine care compared to like Orbot and Cubot. And it's very great to see the transformation that she has like over time, wanting to create that alliance with Sonic, and that moment with her when she like teared up about that friendship and family and stuff in Island 3, and then over time, it's so amazing to just watch, man. And the fact that even with all this emotional stuff going on inside of her, she would still do everything to just keep Eggman alive, and her last words when she sacrificed herself at the end of the game to say, "Please look after father." That was beautiful to watch. I loved all the side character stuff. It was just so great to watch these characters grow between Tails, Amy, Knuckles, and just looking at Sage. And I'm very interested to see how they continue the story next year, because it looks like we're getting more story content next year for this game. But just like in the future, in future games in general, how are they going to be going about with things? I'm very looking forward to this for sure, and I'm just very happy of what they did with the characters. The actual main story when it comes to the lore stuff can be iffy, but I gotta tell you, it's worth it to look at these side characters' development. It's truly something to look at. As far as Sonic's controls, I mean, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think it's like the good and bad, unfortunately, with this new Hedgehog Engine 2.0 that we now have. For anybody that doesn't know, the Hedgehog Engine 2.0 is the sequel engine to what we got from like the engine in Unleashed and Generations, which is just, it controls Sonic absolutely phenomenal when it comes to boost gameplay. It's probably honestly peak Sonic control in the modern franchise in Generations. However, we debuted with the Hedgehog Engine 2.0 in Sonic Forces, where Sonic, or at least modern Sonic, he wasn't the greatest at all. It was just a really gigantic steps backwards. It controlled way worse than Unleashed. I couldn't believe that. With this game in 3D, it ain't as bad. In 2D, he somehow controls worse than classic Sonic and Sonic Forces. I don't understand how in the world is Sonic so slow and so stiff in 3D. It makes no sense. And this is one of the things that gets me just very confused when it comes to development for this game. It's like, on one hand, it looks like they put a lot of effort into this game. On the other hand, it's like, what were y'all doing the entire time? Like I mentioned just now, 3D, Sonic controls pretty good. He definitely could be a lot better. And one thing that I do have to mention when it comes to 3D Sonic is he also feels stiff, but not as stiff as in 2D, but mainly when you're jumping. If you jump and you try to turn left, right, or completely backwards like a 180, it's like the hardest thing ever to do. It's really hard trying to like regain Sonic's control when you're in the air, aside from the double jump, but just like trying to like turn and just move Sonic. It's like the worst thing ever to do. 2D Sonic just takes it to a whole new level. His speed is drastically slow unless you like maxed him out, which I will talk about that max ring bit soon. But his speed is like horrendously cut back. Him controlling whether on ground and especially in the air is super it's ridiculous. I don't get how in every way he controls worse than classic Sonic. It's absolutely abysmal. There is this interesting gimmick where if you max out your rings, so like let's say your maxed out rings is 500, if you collect 500 rings, you'll get this very sick animation of Sonic getting blue lightning around him. And I hope y'all watch that Sonic movie before y'all watch this, because they bring that move when Sonic has that blue lightning around him in this game. He becomes insanely fast, super fast honestly, to the likes of like boosting gameplay, and it's honestly really beautiful and just fun to look at, and it makes roaming around like these gigantic worlds super fun and just easy to just do as well. I love it. And the first time when I saw that was when I was getting ready, or the second time I was attempting to fight Giganto, one of the bosses, which I'll be covering later on. The first time I didn't have enough rings and I just ran out of rings by that point. Then I decided, okay, let me just actually get maxed out rings, and then that happened. Sonic's speed just drastically increases, and it only stays like that at least when you're at max rings, because if you do get hit and you're not at max rings no more, you're gonna have to do the same thing over again if you want to keep that. It is super fun to just roam around with Sonic at max speed like that. It's so crazy, and it's pretty an amazing callback to Sonic movies 1 and 2. It really is. Enemy difficulties, I mean, I kind of was hoping that this would be like a very like difficult game, but at the same time, or at least a lot of difficult enemies, but it's kind of not at the same time. And it's something you kind of have to expect, considering that this is mostly like a kid's kind of game-ish. It's not like a Bayonetta Ninja Gaiden type situation where you can really like mess with the difficulties on them. But I really wish that they could have made these enemies 10 times more annoying to deal with. One of the easiest ways to, at least to, well, not easiest, it's a way to handicap yourself, is keeping like Sonic's leveling, just keeping it at base level 1 and not leveling up at all, which is something I'll talk about later on. But I kind of wish enemies were a bit more difficult, but it ain't the worst thing in the world, honestly. Red rings, so you can collect red rings when you're in cyberspace. That's something, like, again, most of these I'll cover up later on. There's not really an importance to them aside from just getting like the Emerald Vault keys, and it's not like you need so much Emerald Vault keys to begin with to get the Chaos Emerald. So yeah, so the red rings really don't serve a purpose in this game, unfortunately. Sonic's leveling up, so there are 4 things that Sonic can be leveled up with. There is speed, ring capacity, power, and defense. And let me tell y'all right now, you max out Sonic in this game and he becomes the most overpowered hedgehog ever. his speed drastically increases. Even at max rings, it is insane. Ring capacity 999 and you're already at 400. Man, please, Sonic ain't gonna die at that point. Power, they need to nerf Sonic's power. His power is absolutely insane. I maxed out Sonic's power at one point. Oh my gosh, his power is, it makes a huge difference. What makes a boss like so hard to just like put a dent in their health, it makes them so squishy now. It's insanely crazy how strong Sonic becomes when you max out his power. And his defense, he will barely lose any rings. And altogether, when you just max out everything, it's crazy. Sonic's max speed, ring capacity, I think with ring capacity, if you max that out as well, you don't even have to have like max rings anymore to have like that maxed out Sonic movie speed thing going on. It's insane. It's really insane how strong Sonic is with these levels, and I feel like they need to either nerf the crap out of Sonic, or they really need to make like a whole like new difficulty that is like absurdly strong, like, and I mean absurdly strong. Super Sonic. So we already knew that Super Sonic was going to be in the game via trailers and stuff and a bit of gameplay. One thing I was really hoping for was that Super Sonic will be something where you can just like roam around in the game and just have fun with, and unfortunately that is just not the case. We are basically going back in time to where Super Sonic was just like a boss or final boss exclusive type of deal, and I don't like it. It really sucks when we've had like a streak of Sonic games going on that has Super Sonic, because I'm not counting Sonic Boom obviously, where they will have Super Sonic and you can play as Super Sonic whenever you feel like it, in Colors, Generations, Lost World, Forces, Sonic Mania, if you even want to include that in there. This game is just now, it now just stops that streak. The last time I think we had something like this was in Sonic Unleashed, and before that in the Dreamcast era, it was just everywhere where Super Sonic was just like an exclusive thing and you were never able to use them in general like other stages. And it really sucks because it's an open world Sonic game, and I was thinking like, okay, there's no way they're going to mess that up, and unfortunately it is. And it sucks because when you're fighting the bosses with Super Sonic, it's like some of the funnest, it's one of the funnest bits ever in the entire game. And there's really two easy ways they could fix this. Now, the first way of fixing this is making the bosses replayable in the actual open world. It's that simple. Now, the second option is just allow us to just go into Super Sonic. Now, if they want to kind of nerf it, well, they can't really nerf it because we gotta at least be able to have Super Sonic to fly as well. And there's nothing wrong with like having like a character that is like turned into Super Sonic as well as like fly around and stuff. Look at Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. That was one of the fun bits when you're in the open world in that game, flying around in the open world instead of just like walking on ground. That's one of the funnest things to do in that game. So I really risk that this is just like a one-time thing in this game, and that in future games that follows this formula, it's just not going to just keep doing stuff like this. Cyberspace, I mean, I don't really want to stay too long on this. This is probably one of the most lazy parts of the game, really, and it's not a surprise. I gotta say that now. It is not a surprise in any way, shape, or form. It was for anybody that thinking that there should have been a lot of effort should have been put into cyberspace. Well, yeah, you're right, but at the same time, it's like, was you really expecting that? Because I was just expecting them to focus a lot more in the open world area, which they would quite definitely did. So them not putting a lot of effort into cyberspace and just like reusing a lot of assets from a lot of games or old previous games is one, funny, but at the same time it's not a surprise. So anybody saying that they're so surprised that they were doing this, I don't know how, and I gotta ask, how are you surprised? Truthfully, it was just very clear that most of the effort was going to be put and budget was going to be put into the open world areas, and obviously now we know the bosses. But with cyberspace, it's like, bruh, y'all should have known. I mean, but I wasn't joking when I said earlier that they use like designs from like previous like Sonic games. I mean, If you play like Sonic Adventures 2, Sonic Unleashed, I don't know if Sonic Colors is in there, Generations is in there. It's crazy. I mean, they literally just like reuse like levels from like main stages or like these side acts. It's very crazy. It's crazy, funny, but also lazy. With also how Sonic controls, they nerf Sonic's speed so much in this game. I mean, when you're in cyberspace, I don't really see a reason to be playing much of cyberspace unless you're just in it for the music. You remember how short the stages are in Sonic Forces? Well, they're also very short, or at least majority of them are. There are some that are actually long, and when they're long, they are pretty honestly fun to just be roaming around and stuff. But between the controls and just how short these stages are, I can't really justify the cyberspaces to where it's something that you should really have fun with. Now the music is like is one of the best qualities for cyberspaces, which I'll cover on later on in this review, but that's really about it. The bosses, I mean, I think quite honestly the best thing in this entire game. I truly think that it is like some of the best Sonic fights we've had, quite possibly ever. I mean, I know I have not played most of like the Dreamcast Sonic games and most of like the classic ones. From what I've seen on YouTube, watching playthroughs and playing some of the Sonic games as well, I can't quite possibly see like any Sonic game or that had supersonic fights that were this exhilarating. Giganto set an amazing tone to see for like how future bosses are gonna be like. And then we had the likes of Wyvern, Knights, and then Supreme. It's quite honestly amazing. If I was to rank these bosses from like worst to best, I would say that Supreme is the worst because it's literally the exact same as Giganto. Then you have Wyvern, which it ain't a bad, but the thing is that it's more of like a waiting game. I didn't mention this earlier, but parrying is like super easy. All you got to do is just hold like the bumper buttons and you don't have to let go. So when something makes contact with Sonic, he will automatically parry. I thought it was something to where it's like he doesn't like hold it, you just gotta like press it at the right time, but no, you could just hold the parry button. So doing that, and you just gotta like wait for missiles and stuff. I mean, it's a little bit of a waiting game. Not the worst thing in the world, but it is what it is. And then I gotta put a tie between Giganto and Knight. Though it is a tie between those two in my eyes. The bosses when you're fighting with Super Sonic are just so fun, and I make a lot of people like me make save files just to refight these some of these bosses. They are so fun. They're so exhilarating. I mean, I literally have no words. I mean, I was just geeking out when I first saw these boss fights, and I've just never had so much fun in a Sonic boss fight ever. I've always had like so much fun when it comes to like doing stages and stuff, but a boss fight in Sonic, this is honestly the first where I've had like so much fun doing boss fights. It's absolutely insane. Now, I can't say the same when it comes to the true final boss. The end is not good. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking of making that as a true final boss for this game. So every now and then, I think like 2 or 3 times later on in the game, you do these mini games. I call them these Space Invaders mini games, and you literally just play Space Invaders Extreme. And I'm only saying Space Invaders because I have Space Invaders Extreme on my PSP. Shout out to that game, and shout out to PSP. But that's literally the gimmick of true final boss known as the end. You're switching between dark and light shots, just trying to damage the end, and then a quick time event like that goes very quick for Super Sonic. That's about it. It ruined the pace. I couldn't believe honestly that they made that as the final boss, considering that 4 of like the previous bosses were Super Sonic fights that were very fucking exhilarating, and then we had something like this where we play Space Invaders from like a couple side games in this game. It's I don't know what to take from that. I mean, please don't do that again. Please don't do it again. I mean, I really enjoyed like the monologue in the background and stuff, but please no. Just leave that for side games and don't ever try doing that again for like a true final boss, because that was crazy. And oh my gosh. The islands. Okay, so this is honestly one of the best ways to show that this game, while they did put some good effort into it, it was still rushed. So we have 5 islands: Kronos, Ares, Chaos, Rhea, and Oranos, if I said all of those right. Now the first island is Kronos. I think this is probably like the best designed map like in the entire game. I think it is like the best one, because when you're playing, like, let's take Chaos map for example, which I think is the most worst designed map, really. And part of that reason, or really the main reason for that, is, in my opinion, is it's split up into various islands. It's so hard to find these grind rails, and what I recommend is when you're playing Chaos Island, you need to do every single puzzle, so that way you can unlock grind rails to traverse the island very easily. It's so annoying to just move around in this island. It's absolutely crazy. And Ares Island is the same as Chaos Island, but it's not as bad as well though. But it also just makes your life easier when you're doing these puzzles and you get the grind rails to just move around, because you gotta like move in like a certain like way to like get to like a certain area. Same thing in Chaos Island, but Kronos Island is just not like that though. It's very easy to get to like a certain point of the map and not have to rely on like completing puzzles to get these grind rails and stuff, unlike Ares and Chaos Island. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it's something you kind of have to play and then you'll see. Now those are the 3 best island, or the 3 good islands. Now the next 2 islands, so we're starting off with Rhea Island first. I don't even know if I can even call this an island, because it's literally Kronos Island. So when you're playing Kronos Island and you're looking on the map and you're doing your stuff, you notice that you're at the bottom section of the map, but there are like a bit of stuff on the top of the map. When you go to Rhea Island, that top portion of the map, including that part where you fight Giganto as Supersonic, that's the area that you're playing in Rhea Island. That's lazy. That is like extremely lazy, as I don't know why. And then Oranos is literally the exact same thing as Kronos. It's damn near the exact same thing. It might as well be a freaking extension to Kronos Island at this point. Yeah, Kronos Island is honestly like the best well designed, but Ares and Chaos Island, they're also just very beautiful and just stuff to look at. Rhea Island is literally Kronos Island, and Oranos Island is a Kronos duplicate in a sense. Graphics, so the game looks great. I mean I don't know what else you want me to say on that. Cutscenes also look very cool when they actually have like animation and stuff going on. If they're looking like stiff mascots, then that's like another thing. That being said, I do got 2 problems though when it comes to the graphics and performance of this game. When you're playing bosses, like the supersonic bosses, sometimes there will be like a black loading screen just loading something for like the next scene or whatever, and I think that's pretty annoying to just keep looking at. Like, you gotta wait for these black screens to like disappear in like 2 to 5 seconds. But that's one thing. And then the other problem, I mean, it's pretty obvious. The graphic pop-ins are pretty annoying. Now, thank God it does not harm gameplay. I think it's only harmed me once, but other than that, it does not harm. Graphic pop-ins does not harm you when it comes to gameplay. But it's so jarring to just look at, truthfully. I really hope that there is like a patch. Well, I'm pretty sure that they can definitely do something and release a patch to fix it. It's just like a matter of when will they do that. I don't need to speak much on sound. I mean, this game has such amazing sounds going for it. You got liquid dubstep, if I'm not mistaken, for cyberspace. You got some chilled lofi type beat when you're fishing with Big the Cat. You got some amazing orchestral mystery music for like the open zone worlds, and then you got some sick screamo heavy metal for the Titan bosses. It's sick. I highly recommend you go on YouTube, and I'll even put a playlist, if I do remember, to just listen to the OSTs of this game, especially for for cyberspace, because of how short the stages are. You just don't get be able to listen to like the entirety of the music. So I really suggest everybody to just check out like the OSTs for this game on YouTube when you do have time. And that's really about it. So yeah, Sonic Forces, Sonic Frontiers. Man, I am really tired. I enjoy this game. I really love this game. This is a game that I'm definitely going to be buying again on my PC when I am ready to do that, and just have some fun with like mods and stuff. But I really thought this was a great game for the franchise, or a really good game for the franchise. And it's really amazing that this game finally came out and it was like a pretty good game, to where it's like, okay, they still got a bit of something going on when it comes to like making Sonic video games, because just when they were releasing games after Sonic Generations, it's just been like a huge like mixed bag, and it's like, could they still do this or not? Especially when the multimedia aspect of Sonic, between like release of Sonic Prime coming out soon and then the Sonic movies, is like, can they still do good with video games? And if so, will they try? And this game definitely shows that. I definitely recommend this game to all the Sonic fans out there, even those that are very skeptical of this game. It's not like the best out. It's not the best, I would definitely say that for sure, but it is definitely up there as a really good Sonic game. And that's really about it. I am really hoping to get this review out by tomorrow, on Sunday the 11th. So I'm just gonna stop now so I can finally start working on this review, and then I'm gonna work on my Modern Warfare 22 campaign review. If you enjoyed this review, definitely leave a like and subscribe. Tell me what you thought of the review. I do got some campaign live streams going on over time. I got Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart playthrough, as well as Sonic Generations, and anything else. Oh, that's it. But yeah, like, subscribe. I am at 24 subs. Thank you everybody, by the way. This is December 10th as of me recording. It would be really nice if I can at the very least get to 25 subs. Really 30 would be awesome, but 25 at the very least would be fine enough. But yeah, thank you all, and I will see y'all in the next video. Y'all take care. Peace.
Dream.